In the 1970s, Milton Friedman expressed gratitude that the United States was not following other countries in single-payer socialized health insurance schemes. These schemes, he said, would be more costly, less efficient, and ultimately would break the bank. Instead, it would be the United States that ended up with by far the most expensive and least efficient health insurance system in the developed world. So much so that the recent execution of a corporate health insurance CEO saw widespread cross-partisan support from the general public, with even Ben Shapiro's own base turning against him. But while this makes for some interesting headlines and perhaps some social analysis, I think it would be a huge mistake to linger too long on anger, outrage, and especially violence. Instead, I'd like to draw our attention to something transformative, positive, and democratic, and commemorate a commemoration, something that happened 20 years ago simultaneously in two countries, Canada and Wales. In 2004, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation held a nationwide poll on who was the greatest Canadian of all time. The general public selected the democratic socialist Tommy Douglas for the #1 spot. Douglas had formed the first socialist government in North America as Premier of Saskatchewan in 1944, a position he would hold for 17 years, before going on to lead the federal New Democratic Party. He is widely considered the father of Canadian healthcare. That single-payer health insurance system is regarded by many as the single greatest advancement Canada has ever made. That same year, Wales held a similar vote, a poll on who was the greatest Welsh hero of all time. Wales selected Nye Bevan as its all-time greatest hero, the democratic socialist Minister for Health that oversaw the installment of the National Health Service of the United Kingdom. Two popular votes, two socialized approaches to healthcare, two democratic socialists, two #1 all-time spots. The folk hero treatment of Brian Thompson's alleged killer has revealed the double standard of corporate violence, which includes not only profiting off an anti-health insurance system, but the backing and profitability of the extremely direct violence of the military-industrial complex, militarized police forces, of the golden gulags of prison labor forces. Yet ultimately violence is not the answer. Democratic, systemic transformation is. And we've done it before. We need to keep our eyes on the prize. Perhaps the biggest double standard of all has been the mainstream treatment of democratically elected socialists in industrial nations with popular agendas as having something to do with the worst results of unelected governments in the poorest nations, as if they pose some sort of unique risk, a slippery slope on the road to serfdom, while right-wing capitalism is conservative. But right-wing capitalism was not conservative in the panics of the 19th century, in the Gilded Age leading into the Great Depression, or since the neoliberal turn of the late 70s and early 80s. It will not be conservative tomorrow, it will not be conservative in the decades to come. Anyone who is seriously concerned about their economic security and that of their children and grandchildren have to reject it as an opening premise. And Elon Musk will never produce the results for working class people that Tommy Douglas and Nye Bevan did. The feelings of the new McCarthyism will not change that hard fact.